are stories that connect us to ourselves and each other. These stories reveal who we are and show us the many vivid, wild colors of our truth. Welcome to Soul Wanderings, where we raise spiritual awareness and foster connections through these shared stories and personal experiences. And now, exclusively on KGRA Radio, I give you your host for Soul Wanderings Radio. Here's AJ.
Hello there, happy day friend. It is Soul Wanderings night, where we receive the opportunity to hear journey stories from humans from all walks of life, all kinds of experiences, and these humans show up to share authentic pieces of themselves with all of us. I am AJ Rasmussen, your host. Hello. Delighted to be here spending another evening with you. Who else loves October as much as I do? This month brings an added element of wonder and mystery and spookiness, all of those things. And tonight will be no exception. We have a very intriguing guest and one I feel you will thoroughly enjoy. I know I will. So get all comfy and cozy. I have a feeling you'll be sitting still for this one. But before we begin, if you want to join us in the chat room, head over there now. You can do that by going to kgraradio.com. If you have a question for the guest or want to have conversations with others behind the show, this is the place you'll want to hang out. This is where you'll want to log in. And if you do find yourself with a question, please type them in all caps so we can grab them easily. And myself or one of my awesome producers will make sure that they are considered for the show. They'll get my attention for you. Are you guys ready? I dimmed the lights for this one. I'm already feeling it. Nathaniel Gillis is an author, lecturer, and religious demonologist. After being in the deliverance ministry for 15 years, Nathaniel felt called to bring his gifts and research to a more secular venue. The experiences he had as a child by living in a haunted house inspired him to research the fields of demonology and the paranormal. In addition to such disciplines, Nathaniel is also the founder of preternatural epiphenomenal philosophy. It is his belief that demonology is not the study of new life, but the study of old life in a new way. I love the way that sounds. Hello and welcome to the show, Nathaniel.
Thank you for having me, guys. It's such an honor to be here, and I'm very excited to get into this research this evening.
I was saying this before the show when we were just chatting briefly, how excited, like I can feel you're really excited. And I know you share your experiences and your research often, and you still have that level of excitement. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's one of my heroes in life is a guy named Abraham Joshua Heschel. He's one of the most preeminent theologians in the 20th century. And that's the only way he stayed fresh with his research, is that he never ceased to be surprised by what he discovered. And so I guess that's one way I keep my work young at heart.
Well, I can feel it. It definitely shows. And it's exciting when you find something that you're passionate about.
Right. It is. It makes life easier. Especially the many hours that I spend researching. If you can stay fresh in your work and stay passionate, it's not really work at all. It's just something that you really enjoy doing.
Yeah, definitely. I can relate to that on many levels. Different type of research. You call yourself a religious demonologist. I am not completely familiar with a lot of religious beliefs on a deep knowledge, and I have watched a couple of your interviews in the past when I first became aware of you, and I remember you do bring up a lot of references regarding different religions quoted from the Bible or from wherever else.
Mhm.
So I'm going to learn a lot tonight, and that's exciting to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, my research is primarily rooted in what the ancient men and women perceived this phenomenon to be. And so when I approach the discipline of demonology, it's not just through the lens of the 21st century. I want to know what these people experienced in the past. How did they interpret what they experienced? And more than anything else, it's actually inspired me in many more ways than I would have ever imagined to keep doing what I'm doing. And so, it is an expansive discipline, that's for sure.
So tell us a little bit more about yourself. Like, how did this all begin for you?
Well,
This isn't just something someone just, oh, I'm going to be a religious demonologist. That sounds really cool.
yeah, it's not a hat people usually want to put on. It's interesting because I didn't just have an encounter with the paranormal. I was confronted by it at the age of 8, 9 years old when my parents moved into a haunted house. And so it was actually at the opening house, even before we purchased it, that I encountered my very first full bodied apparition. I was in the room that would soon be mine, and I was just kind of looking, through the closet and looking around, figuring out where I was going to place my gaming system and my bed. I was a kid, and
Yeah,
so
the things that mattered the most.
absolutely right. Nothing else mattered. I didn't care about where the heating was coming from. No, I didn't care.
Right. Gaming system, check.
Yeah, I was. So I was drawn to the corner of the room. And there was a bed, and for some reason, I just felt compelled to kneel down on my knees, pull up the blanket, and look underneath the bed. And to this day, I cannot tell you what motivated me to do such a thing. But as soon as I did that, I opened the flap and I was met face first, right, like I'm staring right at her eyes. I was met with a full bodied apparition of a girl that looked to be about 6 years old. She was beautiful. She had a pale complexion. She had long flowing black hair. She had a white linen dress that looked like it was made in the turn of the century. And as soon as I saw her, we came face to face, and I kind of went, oh my God, I freaked out a little bit. And when I did that, I watched her scurry her body and push it all the way up against the wall to where it made it to where she was, the furthest away from me as she could get. So I didn't say anything to my parents. And then on the way home, I kind of felt compelled. I said, you know what, guys, I got to say this. I don't know if I should. I'm not crazy. I don't know if this girl was a neighbor's kid that snuck in the house when nobody was. I didn't know where to place her. But she didn't belong there. Matter of fact, the people that had sold the house to my family, they had passed away. And so it was actually their kids that sold it to us. And so there was no little girl involved. All the other kids were grown up. So that was my very first experience with this phenomenon. And it wasn't just that. I mean, once we moved into the house, this entity, whatever it was, it became more malevolent. I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would hear a full conversation occurring above my head. But I knew enough to know that I could hear them. It was two adults, but I could not understand what they were saying to each other. But, the longer I lived in that house, I saw shadow figures. There would be a smoky apparition that would slide through my door at night, float around, and then hover in the corner of the room like a cloud. That's what got me into this field, and that's why I'm here tonight.
And so from the very beginning of having those experiences, were you intrigued? Were you wanting to know more?
Well, I was intrigued at first. It wasn't until the nightmares began that I got deeply affected by this entity. The first nightmare I ever had, I was laying in bed one night and I slipped into this dream, and the dreams were always in black and white. And I was never walking in the dream. I would always be floating. And it was the same dream over and over again. The dream would start out where I'm walking towards a a park where they have those reserves for like family reunions and birthday parties. And I saw these two young guys sitting on a picnic table. Both of them had their backs turned towards me. One of them was the guy on the right, turned, looked at me, made eye contact, and then stuck a needle in his left arm.
Mm.
I had no context to it. I had no idea what drug addiction was, but I just remember that vividly. The other young man to the left of him, he turned all the way around towards me, kind of nodded at me, smiled, pulled out a 357 Magnum. It was black, stuck it in his mouth, and pulled the trigger.
Whoa.
And there was the same nightmare for months. It got to a point where I had failed a grade in school because I wasn't sleeping. And so I would get maybe an hour or less of sleep before I had to go to school. And then once at school, I would pass out at my desk. To this
And
day,
these,
it still gets me worked up. But
yeah, I can feel that. Wow, that's heavy. These dreams, this particular dream started occurring after you had moved into the home?
yes, 100%.
Wow.
I would wake up in a frightened instant. I would just boom, I'm awake, I'm shaking, I have the chills. And there would be a presence in the room. And it would always feel like it was staring right in my face, but I just couldn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, there was a rancid stench that would often visit my room at night. It smelled like decomposition. People would call it sulfur, but it smelled like rotting flesh. And so the only coping mechanism that I invented that had actually preserved me was that whenever I would feel afraid, I would tell myself, Nathaniel, you don't have to be afraid of this. You're afraid of it because you don't understand it yet. And I just began to kind of speak to myself because there was nobody there. Everybody else would be asleep at night, and that's when these events would take place. But that's more or less when I guess I literally created a desire to know what this phenomenon is, just so that I can comfort others and help others if they're going through what I went through.
And you were already feeling that at such a young age.
Yes. And to a degree, I had no choice.
Yeah.
It was either
it
just
was in your existence. Yeah.
Yeah, you got me. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
What about the other members in your household? Were they having any experiences themselves?
No. And if they did, nowhere near that degree. The only time that I ever heard of a family member experiencing anything, it was my father, and it was when we were actually moving out of the home. Right? He goes, "Oh, by the way," I know, right? Like, where were we at then? But he said, "Nate," he said, "I never really wanted to encourage your fear and what you were going through." He said, "But there were many times when I would be alone in the house, and my father speaking, he said that he also felt like someone had died a violent death in the home." But once we moved out of the house, there was a couple times where this entity would follow me. I mean, I'd spent the night at a friend's house between church services on a Sunday, and I could hear it walking up the steps. I'm laying, because we took a nap. We had one of them Sunday naps. And I'm laying in his bed, and I was like maybe, I don't know, 10. And I'm looking, I could see him laying in his bed with his mom, and I could hear this entity walking up the steps. It was just like someone was there, I just couldn't see him. But since then, I poured myself into my work. I poured all of my time into researching this subject and trying to understand it in different terms and really get a better grasp on what we're all experiencing.
How long were you in the home?
So I got out, let's see here. I was in there about 6 years, I believe.
Yeah,
eight
too long with those experiences.
No doubt, right? You know what, though? It built an immunity in me that I have been able to weaponize in many of my cases. So, it wasn't just all horns and hooves. There was some benefits to it as well.
Well, yeah, obviously, because look what you're doing now, which we'll get to more in the show for sure.
Yeah.
Um, I was going to ask you about the home too. Did you ever find out the history that was there or why these experiences were happening to you?
I, I wasn't able to. I looked on the internet for any kind of information as to what, if anything, took place, and nothing happened there in terms of what I could find. I know that something could have happened there. People wouldn't have put it on the internet, but I wasn't lucky enough to find anything.
Mm.
Now, about 3 years ago, I did visit the house, and I knocked on the door. Nobody was there, but I'm still friends with some of the neighbors, and I kind of had a powwow with them and explained to them what I experienced, and they said that some of their homes in the neighborhood they're also haunted. In addition to that, this is pretty interesting because anybody that knows about haunted houses, this is going to sound very familiar. They said that the landlord cannot find people that will be in the house for longer than 4 months. So, like, all of
Oh,
their leases are gone. I'm thinking,
yeah.
I know why that happened.
Yeah, I know exactly why that happened.
Oh yeah. So at least I know I'm not crazy.
Right. Well, it's really kind of freaky that the energy would follow you to other places as well. It wasn't just happening in your home.
Right. And that made me believe. Actually, it was just a question. Maybe it was me being empathic or growing into a gift, and that entity was trying to communicate. To this day, I don't know. And I
Hmm.
think that's what drives me further and further into this work.
Yeah. So with you saying that you are empathic, is that something you knew about yourself even way back then? We won't say
Um,
way back then,
well,
but you know what I mean.
in a
When you
way,
were a child.
yeah, like I'm 80, way back then. Now, yeah, I'll tell you what, it wasn't until I was about 13 or 14 that I finally grew into some giftings. And, I come from a Christian tradition. And so most of my gifts were operated within the local assembly. If somebody was sick, I would know about it and pray for them, or just weird stuff like that. I remember one time talking to a married couple, and I was at a wedding. I didn't know them. And I just said, I feel that God wants to restore the trust between you and your husband. That her I didn't
On their wedding day.
know. Well, no, this was actually a couple that was at the wedding,
Oh, a
and I didn't
couple
know anything
at
about
the
it.
wedding.
Yeah, but there was I didn't know why I said that. Later on I found out they were having just a tremendous amount of opposition in their marriage, and I mean that's why she teared up. So, long story short, later on in my calling, I did grow into things that perhaps would have led that entity in my direction.
Yeah. With all of the experiences that I've heard about that has been the case, including mine, like
Hmm.
you see and you see these apparitions or shadow people or whatever that looks like for you. And as you get older and figure out what your abilities are through your experiences, always it's an empathic and intuitive
Oh yeah,
energy that you have.
oh yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
It can get annoying sometimes.
So tell me more about your gifts. If you are you an intuitive? Do you consider
Uh,
yourself a medium, or
I
if we
don't
were
know.
to put a title on
It's
what
hard to tell. All right. So the other night I was at a restaurant. A friend of mine was on a date, and I just walked up to the woman and I said, "Hi." He introduced me to her. I said, "Where's your ring at?" She said, "What?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Where's the wedding ring at?" She
oh
said, "She's." This is what I'm talking about.
yeah.
She said, "Well," she's got real nervous, and she goes, "Well, I usually have my grandmother's engagement ring on." I said, "Oh, okay." 2 weeks later, I see my friend, and my friend goes, "Dude," he goes, "that chick was married." He goes, "And she lied to me." He said, "I ended that date that night because I started asking her,
Oh,
like, what's going on here?" Because my friend's a good guy. He had no idea. But that's the kind of stuff that happened. She freaked out because she's cheating on her husband.
yeah.
it's just,
Yeah. And
it's that
she
kind of stuff that it's annoying. I didn't know why I asked that question.
You just randomly get information and speak before you think, or how does that work?
No, matter of fact, the first thing I asked her was, who is Becca? And I didn't realize it, but as I was walking up to her, she was texting her best friend, whose name was Becca.
Oh, wow.
So there's little bits of information that I see, and in most cases, I only see what wants to be seen. And
Right.
so if people have attachments, I've literally seen attachments just fall on people as I'm speaking with them. Um, I had one case. It's actually a person that had called me for help. His daughter was actually his wife was having issues. She had a lot of trauma in her past, and I instantly let me back up and say this. He called me because his wife had some issues in terms of abuse, and he said that he felt the attachment was following his daughter. So I told him, I said, I see a woman on a bed and I see an abusive father coming into the room. Who was that? He said, that's my wife. I said, okay, now who is Emma? I said, I see a little girl named Emma. He said, that's my daughter. And it's
Mm,
within 30 seconds. So it's a gift that took me a while to get used to, because when you operate, and I'm not alone, obviously, there's many people, including you, if we're empathic, we know what that feels like.
mm,
But one of the things I had to learn how to deal with is the loneliness that haunts people when they're hurting for strangers.
mhm.
And that's one of the things that I've really been trying to help other empaths with is getting them to realize you don't have to medicate someone else's pain, right?
Right.
You don't have to blame yourself for that. You just have to manifest your gift.
And that is a learned trait
Yeah,
completely. When you're first an empath, you don't realize that you have the ability to um, put other people's stuff in boxes. Like you don't have to
exactly.
feel it and take it on as your own.
Right, right. And it takes a little bit of maturity to understand when you have to recenter yourself,
Yeah.
which emotions are yours, which emotions are theirs. But I think that's a lot of why I experienced what I experienced as a young person. But that's a little bit of what my life has been about here lately.
Yeah. So I really like hearing about the history because that really set um, a future path for you in what you do now. So it's
Mhm.
really neat to hear that you had those types of experiences. Neat, as in it's neat for us to hear them now when you were experiencing them. I don't know if I would say that's neat.
Yeah, right. I was frothing at the mouth when I was experiencing. It was terrifying, guys. I mean, come on. It's like
Yeah.
there was one night I was playing video games and I saw movement out of the corner of my eye. I look out the window and there's a shadow figure staring at me.
Mm,
So, these are moments that I'll never forget, but they always push me to a
hmm.
deeper understanding, a deep hunger to know more.
Yeah. Yeah, I can relay. And I've said this on the show before because I've spoke with other people who work in the same um, field as you do, same type of research. But I used to see shadow people. Well, not used to, I still do, but there were points in my life I never did. But
Mhm.
when I was young, like going back to first grade, and there is a feeling that when you share this with people that you can't really describe or put it into like a visual for them because
Right.
shadow, how do you explain a shadow person and what they and how they make you feel?
Right. How do you
It is
articulate that?
so, yeah, it's unnerving
Oh yeah. Oh,
and really hard to explain.
it's like you really do. To be honest, you wish you can transport them back in time, but at the same time, you don't want to because they probably couldn't. A lot of people couldn't handle that stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really scary. But I'm out of that now, and now I'm just doing investigations and reading. So that's a better time
Oh,
in my life.
cool. I didn't know that about you. We'll have to talk about that as well.
Mhm.
Um, just because we have another minute or so before the break, tell me, how did you know that they were called shadow people? Like,
Well,
because I didn't know
I
what they were
I didn't. I
when
didn't know
I
what
was
they were
in
either.
first grade, when I first started seeing them. Like, I just have this being following me.
Right. I didn't have vocabulary for it at the time. I just thought it was a shadow, right? It's a shadow of somebody. I think it was, but I think I read a book one time where they mentioned the word shadow people. Like a good friend of mine is Heidi Hollis. And
Okay. We're
yeah, so
familiar with her.
I love Heidi to death. And her and I talk about, she came up with that term, shadow person. So I don't know, to be honest, but I can tell you what, I can find shadow people in the Bible.
Ooh. Okay, we're definitely going to have to talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
I have not read the Bible. I've read a lot of passages in the Bible, but definitely I never really got into that. But I really love the references,
Oh, yeah.
especially when we're talking about this kind of stuff because of the connection that we all are. It's really neat how you can just connect the dots. But we're going to learn more about you, Nathaniel, or I guess we can call you Nate, you said.
Yep. Y'all are friends of mine now, so it's Nate from here on.
Awesome. So we're going to hear more about you here on the other side of this break. So everyone stay close. It's about to get really good. We'll be right back.
I'm getting older and noticing that my body just doesn't work as well as it used to. So I like to keep fit as possible by hitting the gym a few times a week. Recently, I started having a nagging bicep pain and it got so bad I couldn't even lift the weights. When I was complaining about it to a friend, he told me about angioprim. He said chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in veins and arteries that may cause blockages. You know, after just 1 week of taking angioprim, the pain was gone and now I'm back in the gym full strength. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. So to learn more, go to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com or talk to a trained consultant. Call Angioprim toll free at 945-882-7221. You'll feel better with more energy. That's 945-882-7221. Or go to the website angioprim.com.
Let's tee it up for the 22 Fall Classic Golf Tournament for Veteran Suicide Awareness, an 18-hole par 3 two-person scramble at the Atkinson Resort and Country Club, 85 Country Club Drive, Atkinson, New Hampshire. Prizes will be awarded for first, second, and third place teams. When do you ask? It's on Monday, October 19th, 2020. Cost to register is $100 per person, and this includes lunch. Folks, America's in a crisis. 22 veteran suicides per day. Now, this tournament is being sponsored by the Spiritual Warrior Foundation, with proceeds from this event being donated to the Tragedy Assistance Program for survivors. So please come out and honor this event for our veterans and to bring awareness to America for the Veteran Suicide Awareness. Now, registration is $100 per person. Contact Colonel Mike Brown at area code 256-783-9052 for more information. Or you can email at brown.mike734@gmail.com. I'll be there, Colonel Mike Brown, and so will Sean Flynn, KGRA Radio, and TAPS will also be there to join us. So stop by our table. Tee it up for the 22 Fall Classic Golf Tournament, Monday, October 19th, 2020. Thank you.
The Liberator Rocket Heater will heat your home for free. The highly efficient Liberator Rocket Heater has no moving parts. It's safe and strong, constructed of quarter-inch steel. So like all things made in the USA, it's built to last. Uses any kind of wood, sticks, even scrap in its gravity-fed firebox. And it heats workshops, homes, garages, outbuildings, industrial areas, and barns. Watch the video of this blast furnace stove in action. Visit RocketHeater.com. That's RocketHeater.com.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. You're listening to Soul Wanderings here on KGRARadio.com. We are wandering with our guest tonight, Nathaniel Gillis. He's an author, lecturer, and religious demonologist. And the first part of the show, we had the opportunity to hear about Nathaniel's childhood living in a haunted house. Spooky when you're a kid. Wouldn't you agree, Nate?
No doubt. No,
Definitely freaky.
still freaky to this day, but yeah.
So you know what shadow people are now. You know that different energies and beings exist at this point.
Mhm.
So how did the whole demon thing come up? Like when were you aware of that type of an energy?
So I had a Christian, I guess, tradition. So when I was growing up, I went to a church. My dad's a Bible scholar in his own right. And so we would have ministers or other scholars would come in and preach, and I would just sit at their feet as a kid and listen to everything they would talk about. And in particular, there's a gentleman by the name of Jonathan Suber, and he grew up in Africa as a missionary's kid. And he had what we would call a deliverance ministry. So he's the kind of guy that he got all of his teaching on spiritual warfare in Haiti, in Ghana, in Africa. And so when he would come through to preach at our church, I would absolutely, like, I wouldn't say idolize him, but I would watch his every move because he wouldn't like go out there and perform exorcisms. He would just walk by people and you could see their entire visage or appearance change. Their faces would contort. They would scream at him. He was at my local assembly one time. Well, I should say this. I haven't been there in 20 years, but at the church I used to go to, he was there preaching when he walked by a lady and she reared back, tried to claw at him, and began to speak fluent French.
Whoa.
So he grew up in Africa, so he knows French. And the entity, I guess, according to Jonathan, it looked at him and said, "I know you, Jonathan Super. You cast me out in Africa." So,
What?
yeah, and these guys are not like, the guys that say, I'll perform an exorcism for $1,200 over the internet. These guys are people who go out and fast for 30 days and literally, they're like mystics. So I basically worshiped that man because he was fascinating to me. It got to a point like if the closer you would get to him physically, like if you would stand maybe 5 feet away from him, the power that emanated from him would make you cry. You wouldn't be emotional. It wasn't like I'm crying. It's just there was something that was happening to me where tears would just stream down my face. And I'm looking around going, why am I feeling this? So that was my introduction to the deliverance ministry. And so I emulated him. I wanted to know everything about spiritual warfare. I read everything I got my hands on. But that was the deliverance aspect of the work. So the older I got, I went even further in the phenomenon itself. Like why is it that these entities that possess people, why is it that they have language preference? Why is it that many of them are biblically illiterate? I thought these were fallen angels, right? I thought, and that's what I was taught, that in the case of demon possession, it's a fallen angel.
And it's not.
People. It's not. It never has been. And there's a mountain of evidence that says that exact point. But, I wanted to understand more about it. I know that kind of goes without saying. But I realized that these entities had language preference. They were not omniscient. They were not all-knowing. They were not all powerful. Many of them did have the ability to look inside of us and actually see our memories and then use our weaknesses. And in many cases, it's sins or something that have been committed but not been confessed. They'll use them against us. But I guess my point is that I realized that these entities were not as divine as I was taught they were. And that set me in a whole different direction.
Yeah, a little tailspin there.
I know, right?
Well, that's what you learn, right? In religious beliefs that they are fallen angels.
Right. That's what I was taught.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't even done it. Like I said, I've made it very clear I'm not religious, so I don't know a whole lot about it. But even in what I've experienced or researched with very little, I've been told that that's what they are fallen angels.
Right.
Just like Lucifer.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And so once you get into the data sample and you go throughout history, you go through what's called the age of the demoniac in the 16th century, and you just read case study after case study after case study, and you'll see very quickly that what we're dealing with is a form of afterlife phenomena that we've yet to fully understand. And so I'm sure you've heard of the Dybbuk, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so it's not just about a
But
bond.
for the listeners.
Okay, well, in this day and age, people always equate the Dybbuk to the Dybbuk box.
Mm-hmm.
Where that gentleman went to an antique store and bought an old wine box and brought it home. It was haunted. Well, that's not where the legend began. The legend began in the 16th century when Kabbalistic exorcists, for those who don't know what Kabbalah is, it's like the mystical version of Judaism. But in the 16th century, you have Kabbalistic exorcists who were performing exorcisms on people who were possessed by disembodied souls or people that have died and they're seeking re-embodiment.
Right.
And so during those cases, you would have people that would possess a victim cry out to an exorcist. The exorcist would interrogate it, and they would just simply say, listen, I possess this individual because I was murdered. Here's the murderer's name. Here's where the murder weapon is. Go to his house. And they would do it. They would go to the house. They would actually arrest the murderer because the murderer says, well, that ghost has been haunting me for 3 months now. I just want it to be over with. And so these people essentially would possess living bodies. And they weren't all malevolent. They weren't horns and hooves. They were just people who were, for whatever reason, stuck in this dimension and seeking something.
And after that was accomplished, they're
gone.
Right. They would go away.
Isn't that amazing?
It's insane. Like when I think about stuff like that, I feel more validated in believing that there's so much more going on than what we see, but it's crazy to think that a spirit can enter you to take care of unfinished business.
Oh my God. You're exactly right.
How invading, how it's unnerving, it's unsettling.
Exactly right. And so who gave them authority, right, to invade us? And so what I call possession, the commandeering of consciousness. And what we have in the 16th century, it's a fascinating phenomenon. This is really interesting too. There was a rabbi who had a woman come to him, and she said that she had believed she was possessed by her deceased husband. Here's a curveball. When she arrived to the exorcist's house, he saw the woman who was indeed possessed by her husband, but he saw that entity crawled up in her womb in the fetal position. Which led those exorcists to have a meeting. And the number one question they talked about was whether or not this woman was possessed by or pregnant with her husband.
What?
See, that's
mind-blowing right there.
Right, exactly right. So is possession pregnancy?
How are we ever going to know?
Well, the reason they asked that question is because the exorcisms and demoniacs they experienced in the 16th century, 90% of them were women who had dreams of having, can I say, just relations with a spirit. Can I say it that way? Because I know there's some shows I can say things and other shows I can't.
No, that's good. We get what you're throwing down.
Okay. So they would first have a dream that there was a physical relationship with an entity, not their husband. And then they would, in addition to that, they would also have a dream where they became pregnant because of it. This was so prominent in possession cases that even in the religion of Islam, The very first question their exorcists ask women is, number one, again, have you had a dream where you've had a relationship, or relations rather, with someone not your husband? If yes, have you since had a dream that you're pregnant because of it? So
They would ask that.
they would ask that. So the question is this: if these women were experiencing something actually physical, what evidence do we have of that? Because those entities, those spirits that come in the form of men, those are what we would call incubi, or incubus to be singular.
Mhm.
Now, when I got into that work, it absolutely destroyed every concept I had ever had regarding what a spirit is. Father Sinistrari of Amino, he's a Franciscan priest. He had cases where an incubus would plague a victim, and he would show up to the house within an hour of the event happening. The woman would obviously be disheveled. She'd be traumatized, shaking and crying in fear, and he would actually collect substance, or let me just say this, samples
Right.
of organic substance left in the bed. Now, this is going to get very interesting and it's going to get very dark, but I have to say this, okay? Montague Summers is a vampirologist. Both he and Father Sinistrari agree on the following point: that these incubus, these incubi creatures, were milking the carcasses of the dead, taking what they've gotten from them and are trying to implant it in living women.
Ooh.
They knew that because of the coloring of the substance. It was as if it was taken from someone, like a cadaver. And so when I began to research that aspect of this phenomenon, I was obviously concerned, grieved, because I had to ask myself a question. If possession is pregnancy, if the purpose of these entities was not just to possess, but it was to impregnate the woman, then what's the end game here, right? What's the whole end result of this?
So what would it be? What would be the point of?
Okay. So have you ever heard of the Nephilim, or the Genesis 6 theory in the Bible? Many haven't, and it's okay if you
No,
have.
I do not. I
Okay.
have not.
So many people consider this what's called the etiology of evil, or the origin of quote unquote demons. It comes from the book of Genesis, chapter 6. And wouldn't you know, we're going to find these entities doing the same thing to these women as they've done in the 16th century and they're still doing today. In Genesis 6, it says that these quote unquote angels took unto themselves wives and went in unto them, and they created children with them. And that these children later on became giants and all of that. Well, I'd heard that growing up so many times, but it never made any sense to me because, number one, why would an angel have an interest in a mortal woman? Number two, because they're divine, right? Number two, if they did have coition with a mortal, how would they get the substance and seed needed to create with them, right? Made no sense. It wasn't until I found a manuscript, it's a Coptic manuscript preserved by Egyptian monks in the 2nd century BCE. It's called the Apocryphon of John. And I'm going to kind of describe to you guys what this text says about Genesis 6 and how these entities first manifested. But while I'm doing so, I would like you guys to keep in mind what we just talked about regarding these incubi, okay, and how they operated, what they were doing. The Apocryphon of John says that these entities manifested they didn't take wives unto themselves in terms of I'm going to go marry someone and we're going to go live together. They actually came into the homes of married couples, husband and wife, and then manifested to the wife in the image of her husband. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, and that just made my stomach turn.
Okay, right. So it's classic incubi case study. I mean, that's all they've ever done. Right. But and I said, okay, at first I'm like, okay, why would they do that? They manifested as their husbands, groomed them into relations. This is what the Apocrypha of John says. And it says that at the moment of conception, they stared into the eyes of these women and then immediately reversed their appearance to what they really look like. I didn't understand what that was either until I read that it's what was called an ancient obstetric tradition. Obstetrics a reference to childbearing and fertility. It was an ancient obstetric tradition that whatever the woman was focused upon with her eyes at the moment of conception, that image is what she will create in her womb as a physical body, a child. So that apparition was trying to recreate a body for himself that looks like him.
Whoa.
So is possession pregnancy? Is the actual point of possession pregnancy? Is this good stuff? Is this too heavy? I mean,
no, I'm enjoying it. It's awesome. Keep going.
So I asked myself again, what was the end game here? The end game was not just the act of physical relations. It was more than that. It was literally an apparition who was disembodied, no longer had a body to inhabit. And so what does it do? It acts like an incubus, manipulates and really just physically and emotionally grooms their victim into a relationship just so it can inhabit the body in her womb.
I don't even know what to say.
So
it's a lot. I mean, we've read stories and watched movies and have heard all different types of experiences with people who claim to have had whatever experience in this regards. And it still just blows my mind every single time.
Yeah. It's
like how the hell does this even happen?
We are ignorant of it. Demonology has been ignorant of it for a long while. And these entities, they're playing by different rules because they're playing a different game. And it's almost disgusting how many times they've mutated and how many times my discipline has been left groping in the darkness. So it's terrifying. But these entities are looking for what's called a social skin. The social skin is what the German anthropologist Fritz Kramer calls demonic possession. When that entity who is disembodied, it's no longer living, it seeks re-embodiment. So what it does is it tries to step into the flesh of another individual and wear that person like a skin. So to put it lightly, possession is far darker than any midnight of man's imagination. It's right. More sinister. And I can go further, but I want to pause and see which direction you want to go with this.
No, honestly, do you feel like the humans even know that they're been taken over? Like, are they aware while this is happening?
They are, but these entities operate simultaneously because I'm 100% confident and I can prove that these are the same entities that do UFO abductions. So
Really?
I had a lady that was listening to one of my recent shows, and she had heard me one time talk about soul hunters because that's what these entities are. And she commented, she says, she goes, I never understood it till now, but she said she had an entity that would come to her often. And finally, it realized that she did not have a womb, and it verbally abused her and mocked her because of it. Now, why? Because these entities are using our women to recreate themselves.
And are they successfully carrying to term?
I think so, absolutely, and especially in the UFO abduction phenomenon, we have virgin men who are being abducted and given children, and they've never been intimate before. We have women who've never been intimate before go and have surgery, and the doctor says, "Okay, you have scar tissue from a birth. Have you ever had a child?" So they're operating on both ends here, and so that's my next step. And once I write my book, The Skin That Crawls, I'm going to release that, and then I'm going to dive head first into UFO abduction phenomenon and really connect these two parts together.
Yeah, that part would be, I'm interested in learning about that part. And I know a lot of listeners here on the station, that's just right up their alley.
Oh yeah.
That I'm just still trying to wrap my head around that.
Well, yeah, exactly right. It's a crazy idea, and it's not even an idea. It's all throughout history. We just haven't known where to look. It's been staring at us the entire time. So once these entities, I'm going to go even further in the Apocryphon of John, but once these entities started to create bodies for themselves, the Apocryphon of John says that they created copies of bodies. We would call them clones.
Right.
And so I did not, again, I didn't know why they would want to do that. I mean, I understood what possession was. I understood the difference between what's called transient possession. But this seemed, a little bit more sophisticated. Transient possession is where these entities will just pick someone out of a crowd. And obviously, Bobby over here or whoever gets possessed, they don't look like these entities, right? So it's just a whole different ball game. But these entities aren't transient in nature. It's almost as if they've grown in their pathology and victimology to a point where they're not satisfied with just possessing random people and putting on a flesh that doesn't look like their apparition. They want a body that looks like what they used to be.
Mm-hmm. And so in taking or in impregnating a human form, mm-hmm. they're able to populate the way that they see.
Exactly right.
To think that's I guess some of us choose to be naive and some of us are more aware than others, but I look at people sometimes and I laugh. It's really not funny. I wonder like what their soul is, just in the way they look, their mannerisms, the way their facial expressions, their actions. Like I look at serial killers, and
we're going to talk about that hopefully, but yes.
Oh yeah, we'll have a whole other hour. I look at all types of people and wonder how a human could do such horrific things. Are they possessed? Like, I wonder these things on a daily basis.
Yeah, to a degree, I absolutely believe that. I mean, we're so used to men looking like monsters. We have not crossed the barrier of realizing that monsters can look like men.
Yeah.
And so they're partially human, they're formerly human, but there's more going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, obviously, there's a lot more going on. And as humans, we're really good at ignoring a lot of things.
Right.
And if something creates that much fear inside of us, most of us, good thing not all of us, because we wouldn't be chatting with you tonight, are afraid, are terrified. And so, you just play oblivious, out of sight, out of mind. It's not happening. But things like this are happening.
Oh, yes. All the time.
All the time.
It may not be happening to us, but there are many people out there that are going through the worst moments of their life. And again, that's what also inspires me, because I do not believe for a second that humanity is just supposed to sit here in silence. We have to have weapons. We're not supposed to be left hopeless, So that's another reason why I do what I do.
Well, it's really neat that you are doing it, that you are getting awareness out into the world, because these types of things obviously will ruin your life, but being aware and even feeding that type of energy is a whole different thing as well.
Right. 100%. You're correct.
Oh, this is so good. Okay, guys. I always get asked if I want to go commercial free the second hour. Definitely, let's go commercial free.
All right.
Let's do it. Obviously you have a lot to share. So you guys, will take our last break of the show. Stay close, and we'll be back here shortly.
Hi, folks. It's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. Getthetea.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years, and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's getthetea.com. Getthetea.com. The tea that makes you go.
Permanent industrial glue impossible to remove? Not anymore, because Handyman Formula by D-Bond is a patented chemical adhesive remover. It's used in the building and home maintenance industry, but now it's available for your home use, for your DIY projects. Unglue stickers, silicone rubber, labels, price tags, flex tape, weather stripping, carpet glue, wood glue, liquid nails, even 3M 5200. And it dissolves graffiti. Yeah, graffiti. Handyman Formula by D-Bond works, and it's safe to use on most surfaces. No need to call a professional. Don't get out the pliers and blowtorch. Just apply a little Handyman Formula by D-Bond and wait 90 seconds, then quickly and easily pull the items apart. Get unstuck. Visit dbondhandymanformula.com. That's dbondhandymanformula.com, or call 561-575-4200. Handyman Formula by D-Bond.
The Liberator Rocket Heater will heat your home for free. The highly efficient Liberator Rocket Heater has no moving parts. It's safe and strong, constructed of quarter-inch steel. So like all things made in the USA, it's built to last. Uses any kind of wood, sticks, even scrap in its gravity-fed firebox. And it heats workshops, homes, garages, outbuildings, industrial areas, and barns. Watch the video of this blast furnace stove in action. Visit rocketheater.com. That's rocketheater.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store. You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRAradio.com.
You are listening to Soul Wanderings on KGRA Digital Broadcasting, Salt Lake City, Utah, Hudson Valley, New York, And Soul Wanderings can be found on all of your favorite listening platforms: iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, iTunes. There's a lot of them. Just go to your favorite one, look us up. We'll be right there, as well as my show, Soul Wanderings, as well as all the great shows on KGRA, because it's just a great station to be on. We're supported in all the ways. You can also find all of my replays on soulwanderings.com. If you guys are enjoying the show, click on all my social there, give it a like, share with your pals, please, and thank you. Tonight we are visiting with Nathaniel Gillis. He's an author, lecturer, and religious demonologist. And we are really going deep tonight, Nathaniel. Into the darkness.
Yes.
Hearing things I just am really struggling to get my head around. Because you watch them in movies and you're like, yeah, this is just the movies. This stuff doesn't really happen.
Mm-hmm.
But it does.
Yeah, it's much more real than some in some ways than I would like to admit. I would rather just look the other way.
Yeah, right? It's like what most of us would.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe this to be true because of your own intuition on it, or have you been a witness or seen real factual evidence that these occurrences are happening?
They are happening. They've been happening through history. I've seen possession cases in terms of transient possession cases. Those are the entities that, for whatever reason, they're not as sophisticated. They're not as knowledgeable. In some cases, they're not even as intelligent as these other entities that are different. You know what I mean? They're not just transient. They want a body for themselves that's permanent. So I have not encountered what I call a molter in terms of what the Bible and history describes in my own work and like face to face yet. I hope to God that I never do.
What is that called?
A molter.
Okay, so what's so terrifying about
a molter? A molter is someone is what they're doing. They're creating a skin, and then when they're done using it, they molt it like an insect.
Just as the word says.
Yep. These entities have a serial killer pathology. They're necromancers. And that's what these entities have always been. They've been necromancers in the Bible. They were necromancers in Mesopotamia. They go by many different names, but that's what they are. Necromancy is just the reanimation of a body by putting a spirit in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's one definition, and that's what these entities are. But there's a passage, it's in the book of Numbers, chapter 19. And when I was doing my work on what these entities are, whether or not they're fallen angels and, that whole thing, I didn't know where to go. And so I just began to research the subject of exorcisms and the different what are called rites that are used by different religions. And the exorcistic rite, even in Catholicism, it's called the act of sprinkling water. That was rooted, it was found first in the book of Numbers, chapter 19. That's in the Old Testament in the Bible. And the reason they sprinkled holy water on people is because it was whenever these people were polluted by a corpse. It's called corpse pollution. And so essentially, whenever someone had touched a dead body, they were considered defiled by it. And then that's when they would perform the exorcistic rite of sprinkling waters. And so they would go and they would do exactly what the Catholic people do, the Catholic exorcists do. But my point in this is that they did not perform that rite with the understanding that someone was possessed by a fallen angel. They performed that rite because that individual suffered from death defilement. In other words, it had come in contact with something dead. And when they came in contact with it, they become defiled by it. This is a key point. Are you following me here?
Mm-hmm. I'm listening.
Okay, so even more than that, there was what's called the open vessel law. This is where possession comes into play. The open vessel law was essentially whatever you have in the house that is open and can be polluted, especially food, that even that this whole death thing, this whole pollution, it would actually travel as what they called killer air and would defile anything that was open.
Just like that invading.
Yes, they called it killer air. As a matter of fact, in the Cantonese tradition in China, it's the same idea. And so corpse pollution wasn't just when somebody dies in my house or when I touch a corpse. In addition to that, it was more. It was that when a person dies, that there's a cloud that leaves their body and that can travel through the house and it will fill every emptiness. And therefore, those objects or that person also needs cleansing with holy water. So this whole idea of killer air, that is where demonic possession first originated. Because it wasn't just I'm being defiled because I touched a dead body. No, I am being defiled because there is a dead spirit in me, and I am that open vessel that the law refers to.
So nobody's safe.
It's okay. Let me say this. It gets even deeper. But does that make sense? I don't want to go further. I want to make sure that's solid.
No, understandable.
Okay. So that cloud or that gas, that apparition, whenever people would encounter it, it would also smell like its own corpse. That's why I smelled decomposition as a child in that haunted house.
Right.
They knew this. They knew all of this. And this is how the exorcistic rite came to the fore. It was to cleanse someone of being possessed by a disembodied soul. So it's such a fascinating subject. But the idea here is that these entities, they will actually use our own biology against us. So one way that they would possess people is through oxygen and air. And so one of the subjects that I'm really studying deeply now is that at the moment we smell decomp, that entity is actively trying to possess us.
That's what that means.
Yes. They knew this. And that's why I am nervous, because when we have people that go into houses and they think, okay, I smell decomposition, they don't, a lot of us, I didn't know this until I read it. But what that entity's doing is it's not just wanting to wear us as skin. It literally wants to be the air we breathe.
Literally.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's insane. It again, like you left me speechless. No, if you really think about it, to think that it could impregnate a human, but now that's like part of the population. This is everyone.
Right.
Everyone.
And exactly. And nobody's immune to it.
Right.
It's just you have to know the signs and understand the triggers. I've been in homes before during a malevolent haunting, and I would smell that, and I thought it was sulfur, but it's not.
That's what we always say too when we smell that. It's sulfur.
you're smelling that spirit. That's the corpse. That's the unclean spirit that the Bible refers to.
Yeah.
And what's also interesting is that in the Bible, even in the Cantonese tradition, they believed that a lot of the ailments that people suffer from they actually occurred because of the entities that they were inhaling.
Mm.
And so these creatures would literally travel through our nostrils or through a hole in our body, like our mouth, especially air, and they would use that to possess us. So a lot of your early exorcists, like there was a guy named Eleazar, he lived in the 1st century. He would pull spirits out through the nostrils of demoniacs. And he had a root. He had tied a root, I believe it was garlic, and he tied it on his ring. And they would put it up to the nostrils of that individual and pull that spirit out. One individual asked him, why are you doing it like that? He said, well, I'm pulling it out from the same area it entered in. So I would chance to say that it entered in that person when they smelled its presence.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a
so once the awareness, the connection was made, that's when they could.
Exactly right.
Okay, so we have a question in the chat room, which is right in line with what you're talking about. I'm going to quote it. I thought they had rules like they cannot take possession without the permission of the person.
There is a measure of consent there, but that doesn't.
So what you just said, yeah.
Right. So it's not just okay. I'm going to smell it and I'm possessed. There has to be a measure of I don't care what I'm smelling, and sometimes it's even just ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
But if they don't possess and if they're not successful in that way, they will actually start out as attachments.
Right.
And that's a whole other subject.
Yeah, I want to talk about attachments, especially after you said in the first part of the show you actually saw attachments falling on people. Mm-hmm. So we'll get to that, but thinking about what you just said, the awareness that takes place is a permission for them to enter your body.
Yep.
Just acknowledging that you smell them or that you feel them is an awareness.
It's an awareness.
An acknowledgement.
It's an acknowledgement. So what they're trying to do is, and it's pretty sick. And I said it before, and I'm going to say it again because I want to nail this down. The moment we can smell them, that's us knowing and realizing they're actively trying to possess us. And there is consent in terms of, okay, I got to get out of here, or I'm just going to enjoy this, or I'm going to stick around and experience whatever this is. But that's just another aspect of it. That's just another way they try to get into our skin, right? It's not all of their tools. That's just one way they try to get into us.
This one, and obviously there are several.
Right. And the other one, again, being the attachment scenario, and that's what a debut comes from. So the actual pictorial tradition of a Dybbuk, sometimes I say debut, but whatever. The actual pictorial tradition is a man walking with a staff, and he has a skeleton on his back, clinging to him.
Mm-hmm. I've seen pictures of that, like drawings.
Right. So even then, that's not a fallen angel. Since when did a fallen angel have a skeleton, right? That's a disincarnate individual that is attached to that person.
That I told you on break, I laugh when I get scared or nervous. I am totally trying not to giggle. It just came out.
That's okay.
It's just one of those things. Where do these demons even come from, though? Like, we came from wherever we believe we came from, but are they previous humans that they're just lost?
Some attachments are. Okay. I've had people that have come to me where the attachment is just somebody that's deceased. Maybe I had one that was a grandfather. But to answer your question, a lot of your attachments are evil people. And what they will do as a grooming mechanism is they will conform to their victim as an attachment and then make their victims conform to them as possession. So those are the two steps.
Okay. So I know that you could go in so many directions. You brought up the reason they are playing by different rules is because they're playing a different game.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously the question would be, what game are they playing?
It's ancient. So a lot of their rules that actually not even just their rules, but a lot of the language preferences they're employing, they're all ancient. Their symbolism, it's all ancient. Okay, so in hauntology or the study of hauntings, you'll have many, 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 I mean, just myriad amount of cases where in the home there are statues that are defaced, where the nose is broken, or the finger's broken off, or a toe is broken. And I kept seeing that pattern manifest over and over again. And it wasn't until I listened to a lecture at the Oriental Institute that I understood what they were meaning to communicate. During this lecture, this Egyptologist was discussing an event where he had went out and they had unearthed some sarcophagi and statues of ancient Egyptians. And these statues, they all had their noses broken off. Or they would have exactly what we see in hauntings. They would have a thumb or a finger broken or a toe broken. And he said that during those excavations, they found ritual bowls, which are just bowls that people would carve writing into. And these bowls would explain why it is that these statues were defaced. And here was the explanation. That whenever a possessing entity no longer possessed these statues or could not possess them at all, it would break something off of the statue to let everyone else around them know that the statue was not possessed anymore.
I will never look at a statue the same.
So, right. So here's the question. And let me back up and say this, because I know I can go in many directions, but I want to say this. Even in the 16th century, one of the signs that someone was delivered from a demon or a ghost, rather, one of the signs was that they would break a toenail or they would take something off the person or break something small on them because they did not want to hurt the individual. But at the same time, they wanted to communicate to other spirits and to the exorcist that the person was no longer possessed. They're doing the same thing.
Right.
And so whenever I go into a house and I witness that, and I'm not talking about, okay, my one of my statues fell and it broke his nose. No, I'm talking about if it's a consistent thing. That's when I know that there is a motor present, and it's possessing, and it's after possession, and that's one of the rules that they're playing by, and that's one of the games that they're playing as well.
If you want to call it that.
I know, right? It's not chess, but
yeah, no. So you talk about a molter and other types of demons. How many are there, or is that yet to be known?
I try to simplify it, and the way I simplify it is that there are entities that are disincarnate, they are evil, but they're not molters. And so we've encountered them in cases in exorcisms where, they're evil. They'll make things levitate, they'll curse at you, they'll spit at you, but they're less intelligent than the molter. So the molter, like I said before, has a serial killer pathology. In the Bible, Yahweh, the God of the Bible, called these molters soul hunters. Now, let's look at what I call their pathology, and let's compare these soul hunters and what the Bible says about them to actual serial killers. In the book of Ezekiel, chapter 13, Yahweh says that these soul hunters are also necromancers. He said that they kill the innocent to revive the guilty. Necromancy. He said that those who should die live, and those who live should die. And he says that these creatures, because these entities, they're an apocalyptic species of evil, that they will slip into their victims' homes at nighttime, many times when they're asleep. Now, this is purely in the Bible. This is interesting, because I never even heard of anything like this in the Bible. But he said that they would kill their victims, and then they would cut a piece of flesh off of them, and then they would sew it onto their own body. Now, we've seen that exact manifestation in serial killers.
Yes.
The Beast of Jersey. He would create a skin and put it on his face, the Leatherface and Ed Gein, and all of these individuals who, in some cases, not all, but in some cases, they're manifesting memories that are not theirs. Is this okay?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So, they're necromancers. I'm going to go into the serial killer pathology now, and then we can go back to the soul hunters in Ezekiel. But Jeffrey Dahmer's favorite movie was The Exorcist. Jeffrey Dahmer's only living victim was a man. The man said that Jeffrey Dahmer tried to drug him with liquor. He was a beer guy. Thankfully, he didn't drink it. He said when he came out of the bathroom, he turned to see Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer was on a couch, swaying backward and forward, chanting in an unknown language, watching The Exorcist.
Yeah, he was possessed.
Right. That's clue number one.
Always thought so.
Right. It fits, and it makes perfect sense. So check this out. This is interesting as well. But let's see. Another thing that he did that was pretty gruesome is that he would pulverize the bones of his victims, and he would go into his backyard and in a fanning motion, fan the powder in a circular shape. That is a necromantic ritual. But how does he know that?
Right. Possession.
That's a transient entity. It's bouncing in and out. And so I actually had a case that a murder took place. And when I went to investigate it, I knew that it was a disincarnate individual. I just knew it. And we had actually found his belongings upstairs in the closet. But this individual had possessed his own granddaughter. And this young girl had a best friend or a friend that was of hers, and they conspired to kill the family. And so this entity had possessed both of them. It possessed the older one, and then it possessed the 13-year-old. The younger one came downstairs one night, opened up the door. The 15-year-old came into the room with scissors and knives, and there was a male, guttural, disembodied voice laughing during the event. You there?
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm totally here. Sometimes you pause, and I'm just over here trying to pick my jaw up off the floor.
So this is a transient entity. But when I was done with the cleansing, we actually saw the darkness leave. It was like you turn the light on very slowly, and you could see the shadows just leave the wall. It was an entirely different house when we were finished. But about 2 weeks later, actually, no, I'm sorry, not 2 weeks, about 2 months rather later, I was at the same restaurant I was when I got the message to go help this family. Sitting next to this lady, and I'm always reading when I go out. And so she asks me what I'm reading, and I tell her just a little bit about what I do. And she asked me about a case, and I just told her just a case that I just recently did. She goes, "Oh," she goes, "I know you." I said, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "Yeah, I've heard of you." She goes, "And I can tell you that I know that what you're telling me is the truth, but I can't tell you how I know that." So about 25 minutes later, I finally talked her into I'm like, "Listen, I want to know, how do you know who I am?" And she said, "Well, I am the social worker that's working with these two minors."
Oh.
She said, "The night that you cleansed that house, the 13-year-old girl came to the social worker crying and said, 'I don't know what happened, but that entity is not visiting me in my cell anymore.'" God, I got chills.
That's so good.
Yeah. So that's an entity that's transient, but they have a serial killer pathology. And so that's why I say when these entities want to gather their memory and consciousness into one body, it's never a good thing.
No, absolutely not. How did they choose their bodies?
I don't know. It's just like a serial killer. They have their own victimology. It could be at random. It could be strategic. I've known cases of an incubus where it's months of grooming, of whispering into their ears. I had one case where the incubus was laying in between the husband and the wife at nighttime. It's wild. It's crazy.
It's like a brainwashing of sort.
Yes. They're narcissistic. They will love bomb, and if you reject them, in many cases they'll get violent. This husband wasn't buying this. He didn't really believe that his wife was experiencing this until one night while he was sleeping, this entity punched him square in the face. And the next day he woke up and he had Bell's palsy on the side that he was smitten.
Oh my goodness.
So the serial killer pathology is present. We don't know why they pick their victims the way they do. We don't know what speaks to them. We don't know what they value in terms of victimology. But we do know that they have a serial killer kind of ritualistic predatory nature. And I could stop there. Do you want to go any other direction, or do you want me to keep on going?
No, keep on going, please.
Okay. So in Ezekiel 13, it says that these entities would kill their victims. They would take skin off of them and then sew it onto their own corpse. Right? It's a corpse. It needs new skin. It's a social skin.
So physically.
Now, this is about to get even crazier. Now, you guys remember how I said that one of the grooming mechanisms that leads to possession is the attachment stage.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then a debuk is when it clings to us, and at the attachment, all that stuff plays a part. But there's a Hebrew word that's employed in Ezekiel 13 when describing how they're taking skin from their victims and applying it to themselves. And yet that word is skin attachment.
See, you laugh too.
It's when you get to this point, it's just like, what? It's just,
how is this even a thing?
Right. So that attachment scenario, it's not just them attaching to us, but they use that to take things from us to attach to themselves.
Ooh. Okay.
So, okay.
And no, but think about it. I mean, even though the bodies are not alive, there are several serial killers, like you said, that do things like this.
Exactly. Exactly. Now there is a, oh Lord.
That's what's hard to wrap the human mind around. Like we have actual humans doing these things, and we turn our head and ignore it. Except for, I shouldn't say that, because serial killer podcasts and documentaries have become a thing lately, but we ignore it. We just don't. So if it's an actual entity, demon, whatever, it's happening still the same.
It is.
So how do you wrap your human mind around any of it?
It's a kind of darkness we didn't know existed in this world.
It's insane darkness.
Yeah.
I've said insane like 20 times tonight. I'm sorry, but I have no other word.
It's okay. It really is insane. I mean, the more you get into this, the more it's difficult to even comprehend.
Yeah.
But this whole nature, their pathology, the way they even stage their victims. See, I found these entities first, all the way back in the late Iron Age in what's called the EMR manuscripts. It was in Sumer and Mesopotamia. And these entities, they first were exorcists and midwives. Those are the first of this species. Those are the first people to live and die and then become whatever it is these entities are.
So that's part of it right there.
Right. That's why they operate the way they do. That's why they know us the way they do. So that's why they're midwives. That's why they know pregnancy and fertility rituals. Isn't that interesting?
Very, very interesting.
This is going to get very deep.
As if it wasn't already.
Okay, so in the EMR manuscripts, one of the ways the midwife would help the mother give birth to the child is that they would bind the legs. Okay, let me say this. If the midwife wanted the baby to stay in the womb, they would put bands of iron on the legs and they would magnetize them so the legs would stay closed. Okay, so the baby wasn't able to come out. Now, vice versa, if the baby needed to come out but didn't want to, they would turn them a different direction to where they weren't magnetized together. They were the opposite, so the legs would stay apart, okay, so that the baby would come out on time. Now, watch this. One of the ways these midwives would stage the pregnant mother is they would bind their hands behind their back, place those bands of irons on their legs, put them on their knees. Now, think about what this looks like right now. We would call that the execution stance. Where the hands are behind the back.
Yep.
They're tied, right? The legs are tied together, and they're kneeling down on their knees. That's memory. And I think a lot of these cases where we have serial killers that are doing this, it's almost as if they're trying to remember something. And what we're watching is, and that's a whole other area, but it's very interesting.
Oh, that would make perfect sense. Like muscle memory.
Yes.
In a way. You're doing what you've always done.
Right. But these guys were the earliest exorcists. That's why they have such an understanding about spirits.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they use fumigants to possess people. Right? It's because in exorcisms, they would often use fumigants to deliver demoniacs.
Right. Okay, yeah.
So those are the earliest in terms of the earliest generation of these evil entities. But I mean, this is an evil that we didn't realize existed, but they were so real that the God of the Bible mentioned them.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel that they are more evil now than they could have been in the past?
I don't think that it's possible to be more evil.
Well, they don't build power, or they don't. Do you know what I'm saying? They're not.
Yeah. I think that what they're doing is they're operating on both cylinders. I think these are the same entities. The incubi and succubi are the same creatures that we're experiencing in UFO abduction phenomenon. 100%. And you care if I dive into this subject for, I guess, the last part of the show?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so in Genesis 6, in the Apocrypha of John, it tells us that these entities showed up and manifested as someone's husband, right? They didn't marry anybody. They just wanted to appear to women as their husbands. Now, when you get into the UFO abduction phenomenon, one of the most preeminent researchers is Dr. Carla Turner. And Dr. Carla Turner has a book, and it's called The Masquerade of Angels. In that book, she details how her abductees were told by these quote-unquote aliens that they were angels. It's the same phenomenon we had in Genesis 6. In addition to that, she had an abductee by the name of Ted Rice. Ted Rice says that when he was 9 years old, he and his grandmother were both abducted. During the abduction, they were placed into a metal room, and there was a hybrid being that was trying to coerce his grandmother, guess what, guys, into a physical relationship. It's exactly what they were doing in Genesis 6, right? She said to that creature, she said, I was a virgin when I met my husband. He's the only man I've ever known, and he's been deceased now for, I think it was a decade. Now, I'm going to press pause. Now, if these entities are the same, we're going to see a pattern here. Well, right? As a researcher, I'm looking for the next move. What are they going to do? Does that make sense?
Yes, definitely.
Instantaneously, an apparition of her deceased husband comes out from the corner of the room. And that entity tried to use that apparition to get consent, or whatever you want to call that, with this woman. They're doing the same thing.
Yeah. What is their attraction to? Well, I guess that's not a very good question. I'm thinking about what's complicated. What's that?
I said it's complicated, isn't it?
It really is, because you wonder what the driving force is. Like, yeah, they want to be in control of, they want their body back, or they want to have their experience, or that they missed out on, or whatever that looks like. But really, at the end of it all, it just seems like there's something else really going on.
Exactly. And it took me a while to get to that point. So once I got through the literature in the Apocrypha of John, once I read through the abduction literature as well, and I just came to the conclusion, I said, like you just said, what's the end game here? Like, what are they really after? I mean, if they're doing all of this crazy stuff and they're being as evil as they are.
Mm-hmm.
So when they're creating a body that looks like them, and what Apocrypha of John says, it's more than one body, it's multiple second selves. In order to understand what they're doing, we have to understand what they call a body. Just as the soul looks like the body, that's why they said they wanted a body that looked like their apparition, that second body, the body that they possess is called the external soul. So right now, you have flesh. When you look at your flesh and you touch it, that's called your external soul. You have an internal soul, but this is your manifest soul. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. So if they did make multiple copies of bodies, if they did make many versions or many external souls, what's the end game? It wasn't until I got a book called The Golden Bow. It's written by the anthropologist James Frazier. It wasn't until I got that in my hands And I realized, oh my God. Keeping in mind what possession is, keeping in mind that I believe that possession is afterlife phenomena. This is going to summarize the entire show tonight. James Frazier says that the external soul was not just a thing, it was an event, it was an act. He said that in antiquity, when warriors, this is why they have the serial killer pathology, they'll kill with impunity, when warriors were on a battlefield and their death was impending, I'm about to use a word here that's going to make you think about possession. It's literally, they would dispossess their own bodies and place their internal soul in someone else. It's possession.
Possession. Yeah.
And the reason behind that is because they believe that if the soul, if their external soul and their internal soul are together at the moment of death, they die. And so what they did is they dispossessed their own external soul, their body, and placed their internal soul in someone else. So what we're looking at is a form of self-preservation. Hence why in Genesis they wanted to make multiple bodies. Now, if they had multiple bodies, and the reason they want them is so that when one body dies, they can move to the next. You follow me?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Then it makes me think that they're preparing for war and that they're anticipating one body dying. And so their intention is to move on to the next one.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask you about that, actually. And that's only because of many movies I've seen. And that's what what ends up happening is war.
Right. Exactly.
But
right.
That's going to lead me to a question. I don't want to go down a whole political rant or anything like that. But there is a question in the chat room, and it's a good one. Do you think that evil has infiltrated our government?
I think it has. Not in terms of candidates, in terms of finances and dark interests that are not often visible to us.
Mm-hmm.
So 100% I do believe that.
Well, yeah, evil. What about, I'm just going to take it a little further. What about, possession?
Again,
or attachments or whatever.
I would think it would be attachment. I would think that these entities would appeal to the idols of the heart. If it's greed, if it's power, they would use that and give them whatever they want, put them in places of power, and then use them for their malevolent means. Mm-hmm. And I'm doing my best not to be political either, but to answer it ambiguously, but hopefully at least give some direction.
Right. No, I mean, it's a good question because there is so much darkness happening right now. But moving on from that, you were I cannot believe how fast time is going, and I could just listen to you for hours.
Wow.
This is very fascinating, even though I'm a little freaked out. Still interesting nonetheless. When you were going to talk about soul hunters.
Yeah, so the way they would operate is that the Bible says that they have a cloak of invisibility. And so that's why we can't see them with our eyes, but we can, and even we are experiencing them with our other senses. We feel them in terms of just something preternatural, and we can smell them.
Right.
But it's more than that. These soul hunters had a priest amongst them. It was their leader. In Ezekiel 13, it says that you place these skins and garments on the tallest individual among you. It's a very peculiar statement in that passage. So they believed that the tallest among them was the most gifted, and that was the most able to do what's called soul trapping.
Mm.
What they would do is they would wait until someone falls asleep, or more often than not, they would induce a deep sleep into the victims, and then they would pull their soul, what's called the Ba'a soul. It's a bird-like soul. It's the word Ba'a comes out of Egyptology. And it was the idea that when a man or woman dies, that the soul leaves the body like a bird. But what these entities would do is they would induce people to sleep, kill them, and then try to take over their bodies. Or they, like I said before, they would take pieces of the flesh and apply it to their own existence. It's self-preservation. And essentially, I'm going to hurt you in order to heal me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm listening.
No, there was more. Please share.
Well, we have to understand the way they think.
Mm.
And we have to understand that these are necromancers. Like even in the Bible, let's go back even further in the Old Testament. There's a group of people that are called the Amorites. And the Amorites encountered these creatures when they went into the land of Canaan. And this is interesting as well. They said that these entities were called Zamzumim. Zamzumim is not a concrete title. It's not even a real name. The reason the Amorites called these creatures the Zamzumim is because the word Zamzumim sounded the most like the language they used to communicate to each other in.
Well, when you said it, it sounded just like that.
Yes, it was a buzzing, chirping, chattering language. In order for us to understand that, we have to go to Isaiah 8 and 19. When Yahweh prohibits people from visiting necromancers, and guess what he describes these necromancers as? He says those who consult with people who chirp, who chatter, and who mutter. So we're dealing with necromancers. It's not just ghosts. It's not horns and hooves. We're dealing with necromancers. And, like I said before, they're a whole different species of incarnate evil, and then these transient entities that just possess people sometimes and leave. These entities don't even have the same language we do. And I'm going to go a step further to say that I do believe that when we go into hauntings and we record EVPs, that in many cases we have recorded them communicating with each other, but we did not understand the frequency they were on, and we didn't understand what Zamzumim is. Now, isn't that interesting?
Very interesting. It's amazing the way that you even said it. Like, you could feel it. You could feel that.
Right.
There is a vibration. Yeah, there's definitely a vibration in that word.
Exactly.
When you talk about this type of darkness,
mm-hmm.
Do you feel like it's attracting it at all? Have you had your own experiences because of doing the work that you do?
No, not at all. I've never had an attachment. I have forerunners where I'll have an apparition come to me, or I will get a name or mental impression, and I won't have anywhere to put them until I have another case, and then I realize, okay, that's why they came to me. But I don't have attachments at all. But I will say this: when you research this stuff like I have and start to see through the darkness, it does help to watch shows like Frasier or some comedy or something. You know what I mean? Just kind of get that icky feeling off of you.
No, I understand. I went to college for criminal justice, and I've been obsessed with getting to know the psychology behind serial killers or what makes people snap. And it's really all kind of morbid. But I've always been drawn to it. Like, I fall asleep to crime shows every single night. And so you have to have this balance where you're brought back to reality and some lightness to it all, because you could really lose yourself in that type of an energy.
Right. Yeah, you're exactly right. And I watch a lot of the interviews with serial killers. I want to psychoanalyze them. I want to watch their facial expressions. I want to understand the way they think. It's such a fascinating subject, but I think that the more we research this, the more we understand it, the more we can weaponize what we know. We're not as ignorant anymore. You know what I mean? Now we have at least something and it can understand it more.
Yeah. I mean, it is with anything, the more you understand it, the more comfortable you can become with it.
Right. Exactly right. And you can even follow its mutations. Right. And just like a virus or a disease, these entities can mutate. They can mutate in pathology. They can mutate in victimology. And so it's the responsibility of demonologists. If we're going to research these entities as demons, it's our responsibility to track the footprints and understand what they're outgrowing and what they're growing into.
Mm-hmm. But they do mutate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In the 12th century, it was a general rule that these entities no longer took women by force. And that's when you go from the 12th and the 16th century, you have the witch craze, where you had women who would actually be the lovers of demons. Right. And so these entities, a big group of them, didn't have to take women by force, because they were literally, this is crazy too, they would literally snatch a woman from her bedroom, send another spirit in her place that looks like her, so the husband wouldn't know she's gone.
No way.
Yes.
Just like the fairies taking the babies.
Yes, yeah. So again, it's not just the body snatchers. It's not just that they're taking one thing, they're replacing it with another. Now,
and no one knows the wiser.
Right.
But then I would wonder, as a human being, like, where am I during this whole experience? Like, I don't have my human experience here anymore.
Well,
right? Because I've been possessed.
You don't, right? There's something else manifesting within you. But these women that were, I guess, the lovers of demons, they were volunteers, right? They weren't, like I said, they weren't being taken by force. They were actually volunteers. And so that's when these entities mutated as a general rule, right? They mutated. But when we get into the witchcraft in the Middle Ages, oh my God. I mean, that right there it's a whole nother show. But there's a book out there by a guy named R.E.L. Masters. It's called Eros and Evil. And he talks about how these demons or these entities would manifest to their lovers. And in one case, Montague Summers had a case, oh my God, where one of these women said that their lover was, can I say the word circumcised?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So what fallen angel is circumcised?
They're not.
Right. There was one lady that experienced in that actual event that this entity he did not have a natural male appendage, that there were 3 appendages and they were metallic. Now, this is going to get absolutely chilling. I do not believe that those entities were demonic. I believe that was another form of UFO abduction phenomenon.
Well,
and right?
Go ahead. I was going to say, if it was metallic, that's not a demon.
Right. Those were probes.
Definitely something else, yes.
Isn't this? It's much more fascinating than what many people would realize. But as fascinating as it is, the deeper you go into this rabbit hole, it's like, oh my God.
There's so many directions.
Yeah.
There are so many directions. It literally, like, I don't even know if I'll sleep tonight when I get in this place of like, but wait, what about this and what about that?
Right.
I just Google or whatever search engine. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's just so amazing and so crazy, and so it's just intriguing. All of it is. You spent your life so far dedicated to learning more, and it shows. And
wow,
I would love to have you back on the show. We could talk about witches.
Sure. Oh man, it's fascinating.
Anytime.
Awesome.
He's so good. I want to make sure everyone knows how they can find you and learn more about you. How can they do that?
So my social media, I'm on Instagram and Facebook as Nathaniel J. Gillis. My website is njgillis.com, Gillis. Yeah, and on my website, it has some of my research. In addition to that, it has all of my appearances this year, going back to January, even some of last year, and my future upcoming appearances. So you can go there and check out where I've been and where I'm going. My book is going to be out this weekend for pre-order. My book is going to be called The Skin That Crawls. And so look for that.
Perfect title. Where could they find that book?
It's going to be on Amazon. So it's not out yet, but when it does, I'll put the link on my website and you guys can check it out too. Perfect.
It has been so wonderful learning more about you and all of the research that you have. Interesting and fascinating topics. No doubt about that.
I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. It can get dark at times, but it is very interesting.
Everyone get up, do a little happy dance, shake some of that off. Don't go dark. Don't go too dark.
No, man. Go watch cartoons or something.
Thanks again, Nate. This was really awesome. We'll hope to have you on again in the future.
I would love to come back on. I really enjoyed myself.
Thank you. All right, guys. There we go with another wandering. Remember, you can find Soul Wanderings on all of your favorite social media platforms, as well as soulwanderings.com. And make sure you are on kgraradio.com for my show and all of the many other amazing shows we have here on the station. Thanks for being here with us tonight, everyone. Good night.